Hello and welcome to the ETH Riyadh 2023 online closing mixer, marking the final day of our ETH Riyadh summit. My name is Daniel and I'll be your host today. For those who don't know, ETH Riyadh 2023 is a prominent Web3 summit dedicated to Ethereum, designed to gather developers and builders from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and other regions of the Middle East. ETH Riyadh has a strong focus on Ethereum ecosystem. It aims to provide insights from industry experts and fosters meaningful discussions about the future of blockchain. The ETH Riyadh event began on September the 18th and has continued up until today. This would not have been possible without the support of our presenters, attendees, hosts, and sponsors. A heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you. Another big thank you goes to our community organizing committee, Tharawat Technology, Studio 1727, Chain IDE, Coffee with Crypto, and Mast Network. And also, we wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Anchor, Chillers, Zakilla, Adverse, Matrix World, SAO, OneKey, Unchain, Near, Cusp, and Unbundle. For more information about ETH Riyadh or to stay up to date with their mission of growing the Ethereum ecosystem in their MENA region, please visit ethriyadh.com or follow ETH Riyadh on X, which was formerly Twitter. As a part of our final mixer, we'll be hearing from 9 distinguished speakers, each an expert in their own respective field, with a break in the middle of the day from approximately 12 till 2, and we're running GMT +3 time. Welcome to ETH Riyadh, the online mixer. To kick off our mixer today, we'll first hear from Xin, research scientist at Uniswap, who will delve into the topic of on-chain foreign exchange and cross-border payments. Thank you, Xin.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I'll be talking about on-chain foreign exchange and cross-border payments, and specifically some of the technical details that makes on-chain options competitive against traditional finance, cross-border, and foreign exchange options. So our agenda today is first I'll motivate the problem and say that why this is an interesting and important problem to solve. And then we'll compare the payment infrastructures in the traditional rails and in crypto or on-chain markets. We'll then compare the market features. So the second section will be kind of payment, and the third section will be the exchange. We'll look at some interesting statistics. Finally, we'll talk about missing pieces and how we can push this frontier forward. So first, motivation. Right now, cross-border FX cross-border payments, they're quite expensive, and there are also substantial settlement risks. So right now, the non-instantaneous correspondent bank settlement are estimated to have about $2.2 trillion dollar a day of unprotected trade risk. And that just means, some trade happens and it has not been settled. So the price has been confirmed, but the money is not in the bank. So there is a risk of the trade not realizing, despite the fact that people have agreed on a price. So that's the exchange part, and then on the payment part, cost of remittance, meaning flow of money across borders, and small value transfers are still very high. There's some statistics show that this cost is currently greater than 6% average. So right now we're showing the fact that FX cross-border payment remittance is particularly important for people in need, right? So if you look at figure 6, this is from a paper we wrote. This is a share of GDP from remittances and merchandise exports by country in 2021. And you can see that for a lot of these countries, that value is between 20 and 50%, right? And that's like the total productivity of these countries. And if you look at the specific countries, they are developing countries that would benefit a lot from having lower costs and friction to such a big part of their economy. On the other hand, the market structures of foreign exchange are somewhat opaque and fragmented, and the rules there are really arbitrary and path dependent. So first of all, the banks as these center hubs for FX flow and exchange, they internalize the customer flows, which means that you would only be able to see liquidity at your bank. Right? If you have multiple banks, in particular, if you're an institution and you're a customer with many banks, then again you have to sort of identify these liquidity sources one by one, and you have to have a smart routing algorithm to aggregate those liquidity without creating a big market impact. The reporting and and standardization of the reporting is also limited, and different countries and jurisdictions require very different reporting disclosure rules. The third point is, we're still in a in a convention-driven market where the liquidity depth very much depend on the working hours of traders at banks. So from New York close to Tokyo open and during weekends and holidays, there's generally very poor liquidity. And there's also a lot of sort of scandals around benchmark rigging. So this is the case when a few people collude to move a benchmark around. And the benchmark is usually just like weighted average price or something. And then all the derivatives coming out of that benchmark will be priced differently and likely in favor of the people who's manipulating the benchmark. And that happens a lot due to the lack of transparency, right? There's not enough reporting on who did what, and so it's very hard to audit. And a lot of times it takes a long time to figure out who did that. So my claim here is on-chain FX has the potential or promise to solve these issues that I just mentioned. And specifically, I want to list out a few points. First of all, there's very minimum settlement risk, right? If you send a transaction and it goes through, it has gone through. There's in fact no way for you to get it back, right? But on the other hand, the other side never has to worry that you're going to kind of revert on the trade. The liquidity is really 24/7, and that's a great feature of AMMs. whenever you calls the M smart contract, it will always be there, right? It doesn't go home, it doesn't go on holidays, and there's no weekend. The uptime of blockchain is really a promising feature. Privacy preserving transactions. So these are referring to the fact that the entities are pseudo anonymous. If you really want to protect yourself, you can, and it will take a lot of effort to figure out who is who. But on the other hand, you can audit everything almost in real time, right? So it's extremely hard for someone to do something malicious and expect not to be caught, right? You almost get caught instantly. And finally, efficient aggregation routing, because every single pool on a blockchain can be sort of accessed at once, and you really have insight into where the liquidity is. Okay, so that's all about the motivation. Let's talk about specifics of the payment infrastructure. So this is the structure with the current system, right? It's called correspondent banking. And what happens is, if you are this guy, and if you're this guy, and you're trying to send your money to this guy over here, right? What really happens is you send money to your bank. The bank goes through some payment system in your country to a correspondent bank. And the correspondent bank then has like an offsetting ledger with another correspondent bank in another country. And this bank will go through their payment system to your receiver's bank, and then the money eventually went through to the receiver. And every step of the way, there's some fees and also some settlement risk and some delay and a lot of paperwork and stuff. Now, this is the new sort of payment and market structure with on-chain transactions. So really, you have your wallet, right? And your wallet can do a USD stablecoin to Euro stablecoin transaction with, for example, Uniswap. As long as there's a pool, right? You can do it anywhere. And then you send the Euro stablecoin over. And this is sort of the entire FX exchange and payment that's going on. What's really complicated with on-chain transactions is this part, right? How do you get your US dollars into the crypto system? And how do you get your Euro stablecoin off to the real world? So that's sort of the semi-missing part that will lead to the end. But as you can see, that in terms of exchange and payment, it's really, there's no intermediary. You exchange on chain and you send the money on chain, and there's no your bank, their bank, correspondent bank A and B and payment system. There really isn't. It's just one blockchain and everything happens there. So what about market features for FX market? Well, let's compare one by one. Market hours in the traditional FX market, you have nominal 24-hour market, but you don't really have liquidity during the weekend, and of course trading and settlement not really available. On-chain is 24/7 as long as new blocks are being produced, which hopefully all these chains are. Then you have 24/7 liquidity and your instantaneous settlement. Even for Ethereum, which is a few blocks, it's still very, very short compared to the traditional method. And again, like settlement in traditional, by convention, is T+2 business days, and depending on when your trade is done, you might fall right before a holiday, then you have T+5 or more. Now, settlement risks, right? On the blockchain, there's very, very few or very little settlement risks. In the traditional market, you have about 1/3 of the deliverable FX turnover on any given day, and that's quite a lot of money at risk. Right? Transparency and trade reporting, I think we've talked about that. You really don't have much standardization and or like the absolute level of reporting in FX market, whereas in on-chain market, while you don't know who is doing something, you know someone is doing it, right? And you can real-time audit the thing. And finally, benchmark transparency. We've talked about rigging, and that takes a long time to figure out in the FX market, LIBOR, etc. But on the blockchain, you can do it immediately. Liquidity fragmentation, we've talked about. People are familiar with aggregators. Liquidity providers in the traditional finance market are they're very much gated, and you need a lot of capital to get in. Whereas here anyone with like tokenized cash can become an LP. Interesting statistics to share, and just to really took those points home. You have always on-chain liquidity, and this is again another graph from our paper. And here we're showing like average liquidity depth throughout a week, and this is the average across many weeks. And in pink, I'm highlighting the weekend segment, right? And compared to during the week, there is really no difference on the weekend, right? And I suspect all of these variations throughout different weekdays are just noise. The second thing I want to say is the on-chain market has pretty accurate pricing. Right? If you look at the Uniswap Euro CUSDC price versus the Bloomberg sort of benchmark, they really closely track each other. So the worry that because of low liquidity and getting bad prices is not really a big concern here. Then you have reduced remittance cost. Right? This is what we talked about in the beginning, where the average cost of sending a relatively small amount of money cross-border is still very, very expensive, but you can get really cheap remittance costs on the blockchain. So on the right here, I'm sort of breaking down different components of the total cost, and compare sort of one by one what the range estimate they are. So if you want to use DeFi and stablecoin to do cross-border remittance, there's a few steps, right? You have to on-ramp your fiat on a blockchain. Once you on-ramp, you have to exchange. If you're going from Euro to USD or vice versa, you have to change your currency to the other one. You have to pay network transaction fees, and that's really just gas fees, right? You have to pay to use the blockchain network. And finally, you have to, like, your receiver has to do the off-ramp. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I did break down the range here based on different options you choose, like which on-ramp provider you use, which blockchain you use, which exchange you use. But the total estimate is from 1 basis point of your total amount to a fixed cost plus a fixed cost of like 35 cents to 2.5% of your total amount plus a fixed cost of $5. And obviously, if you choose to use mainnet, then it's going to cost you more in gas. Then that's where the $5 comes from. So yeah, let's just compare that with the current payment rails, right? If you're transferring $500, and that's like a common thing, and we're not picking this number sort of out of thin air to make a point. These are very common transactions that people do, especially expats of developing countries. They work overseas and they send money back to their home country. And if you look at total remittance fees, if you use the bank option, it's like close to $30. And if you use a money transfer operator, it's less than 20. If you use DeFi and a standalone on-ramp provider, that would be $10 and a bit more. And if you use someone like Circle and Coinbase, who's subsidizing the on-ramp, then you can really cut down the cost. Right? So what's not good enough in this system? Well, first of all, there's really no regulatory clarity, right? Like even if people want to be compliant, it's kind of hard to do. So everyone who's pushing the frontier of the system is sort of taking on unknown risk at this moment, and understandably, a lot of people are not working on this, potentially because of it, right? So if we have much better clarity, we can probably expect more entrepreneurs working on these issues. The on-chain decentralized ID solutions are not there. So again, in order to be compliant, we do want to have some sort of compliance check in place. But at the same time, we want to avoid sort of the old way of doing KYCs, where you have to literally send all your passport information to someone in order just to give money to your mom in a different country. The experience of using blockchain is still not great. We all know how stressful it is to do on-chain transactions. I'm in particular kind of paranoid about any time I need to type in an address or something, I always suspect I had the wrong thing. Forward instruments. So right now we talk about spot, right? The underlying sort of currency, but really what's taking up most of the volume in the FX market is the forward instrument, and that allows people to hedge their future aspects, future currency exposure, and so on. And finally, pre and post trade privacy, and that matters a lot for institutions who, again, like doesn't want everyone to know that they're buying or selling a huge amount. And so the takeaway from this presentation is that, or at least what I'm hoping you to take away is, blockchain technology can address many challenges in traditional finance or FX market. The major benefits include instantaneous settlement and minimum settlement risk, lower cost or much lower cost of intermediation, enhanced liquidity aggregation, and higher uptime. We do have challenges regarding regulatory clarity or uncertainty, custody solutions and scaling, and that's just gas fees and so on, and throughput. And finally, we suggest that we focus on on-chain decentralized ID solutions, forward instruments, and privacy solutions. Yep, that will be all. Thanks very much for listening. You have my Twitter handle and my personal website here. If you're working on exciting FX, on-chain FX solutions, I'd be happy to learn about them. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Xin, for that presentation on a very interesting topic and important for the future of cryptocurrency adoption. There were some great comparisons between traditional FX markets and the potential of crypto as well. All right, up next, we will be hearing from Jimmy Zhao, a senior solution architect of Binance Smart Chain ecosystem. They're discussing BNB high-performance scaling solutions. Thank you, Jimmy.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to introduce the OPBNB, which is the high-performance scaling solution for the BSC ecosystem. I'm Jimmy. I'm the senior solution architect from the BNB chain. As we all know, that OPBNB just have the mainnet go live earlier this month. Different from other layer 2, actually, the OPBNB is the scaling solution for the BNB smart chain. It aims to provide a fast, cheap, and secure transactions for the BSC users and developers. Of course, it is leveraging the power of the optimistic rollup. For those who are not familiar with the optimistic rollup, I'd like to have a brief introduction. Optimistic rollup are a technology that bundles many transactions together and submits to the main chain, which is in our case is the BSC, as a single proof, reducing the gas costs and increase the throughput. OPBNB is actually built with the Optimism OP stack, but adapts their technology to the specific needs and the features of the BSC. So OPBNB also introduces some innovations and differentiators that makes it stand out from other layer 2 solutions. I will introduce the details later. So actually, just I introduced it is the solution for the BNB smart chain. It's a scalability solution. So what is the OPBNB? Here is a detailed diagram to introduce. Actually, OPBNB is a layer 2 solution that it aims to improve the scalability and efficiency of the BSC mainnet. It uses a roll-up architecture that consists of 4 main components. One, it actually is a sequencer and a prover and the verifiers. Of course, the users are going to interact with OPBNB. Users can interact with the network by depositing funds from the BSC mainnet and using various applications and contracts on the OPBNB. Sequencer, in this diagram, you can see that it is responsible for aggregating users' transactions and computing the state transitions and submitting them to the layer 2 transactions, the roll-up contract on the BSC mainnet. Proofers actually generate the cryptographic proof that attests the validity of the state transitions, and the verifiers checks with whether this proofs is valid to ensure the OPBNB state is correct. There are a couple of benefits of OpenBNB. One is that user can deposit and withdraw funds, and use smart contract to view the network data with lower latency and the cost than the BSC mainnet. And also, sequencer can produce block faster, which in OpenBNB, which is 1 second, and accept more transactions and propagate data more efficiently than a BSC. Actually, OpenBNB is designed to address the challenges that a BSC mainnet itself is not, competing with the other layer 2s, but to solve the problem of the BNB ecosystem. For example, if one application has thousands of transactions daily, the gas price needs to be low enough to make the return on investment positive. This is a very common question from projects we have received that we want to see use the BSC mainnet. OpenBNB offers them a more scalable and affordable platform to run their apps and contracts easier. So you may ask why we want to build the OpenBNB on top of the OP stack. That is a great question, actually. So if you are familiar with the OP stack, you must know is OP stack has a very booming ecosystem. And the OP stack framework can provide the fast and cheap and secure transactions on the Ethereum. So we want to make it happen in the BNB in between as well. So first, it can, because of the modularized framework, so we can do a lot of customizations to, for example, using the flexible execution client to have a better performance, and we can switch the different data availability layer. For example, we can integrate the OpenBNB with instead of the BSC, but with BNB Greenfield for more scalability. And we can also adapt the various types of proof generation logic, for example, the ZK proof as well, to increase the user experience. I think secondly, it is an open ecosystem. So we want to be part of the ecosystem to contribute our innovations to the layer 2 chains that can interoperate and benefit with each other. So OpenBNB can easily connect with OP stack chains and share the same security and compatibility guarantees. Because we want to contribute to the open source community, OpenBNB respects and contributes to the innovation development of the OP stack framework. We can also improve the OP stack framework by introducing new optimizations we have introduced to the BSC ecosystem. So what kind of the innovations we have introduced to the OpenBNB? I think the first is the EVM state data access. As you have to already know, Bloom filter are the handy way to quickly check if something is in a bunch of data. For example, when the EVM needs to get some data, it uses the Bloom filter to see whether it is in the diff layer, and then looks through the cache layer and layer by layer until it finds it. If it is not in the cache, EVM just reads it from the level DB. So this is how the data is accessed from the node. But the Bloom filters are not perfect. Sometimes it just to say something is in the data, but in reality it is not. So we call it this kind of the false positive. So more data you have, especially the BSC and OpenBNB block size is much bigger than Ethereum, the more likely you'll get a false positive. So OpenBNB has more data. That's a problem, right? So we want to make the Bloom filter and the EVM state data access more efficient. To avoid this, OpenBNB made the diff layer smaller, and from 128 to 32 levels, just make the data smaller so the Bloom filter is more accurate compared with the default one, and the EVM can find the data more easier, so it can be more faster. This is the first innovation we have introduced. Another thing I want to mention is that the prefetch is a cool feature that lets the EVM get some data ahead of time before you need it, right? So this can make things run smoother and faster. But the old prefetch design was not good. It was not very good. It used different databases for prefetch and for the main EVM processes. The prefetch threads could only be put the prefetch data in the layer 2 diff layer. To get this data, the main EVM process had to go through the layer 1, layer 2, maybe layer 3. That was too slow for a speedy layer 2 network. So we just redesigned the prefetch logic. The new design is much better. It uses a shared pool that has all the world data, original storage for both prefetch and the main EVM process. In this way, the prefetch threads can put the prefetch data right to the up layer. And besides that, we also optimize the mining process. So it allows to preload some of the execution and save the data to avoid, re-execute again to make it more stable. And at the same time, we also introduced the asynchronized batch submission to the derivative layer of OP stack to make the submission even efficient. So this kind of the optimization we have introduced to the OPBNB, and we will contribute this kind of the optimization to the OP stack as well. So next thing I want to talk about is what metrics the OPBNB can provide to the BNB chain. So if you can see here, there is a comparison between the OPBNB and BSC. You can see here. Actually, both of them use the BNB token as the gas token. That's no problem, and both of them are EVM compatible. So developers do not have to change their code to migrate from the BSC to the OPBNB. But the gas fee is much lower compared with the BSC. This is a typical transfer transaction. So OPBNB, it's much lower than the BSC. Of course, it's much lower than the Ethereum. It can reach to as low as $0.005 compared with $0.03 on the BSC. And there's a major difference is that the OPBNB requires 7 days challenge time, and the BSC finality time is just 33 seconds, and 6 seconds after the faster finality is implemented. Of course, right now is 6 seconds actually, and the TPS, the OPBNB, is around 5,000 actually. So we are going to make optimizations to make it even higher, and so that people can have better performance in the future. So I have a recommendation is that OPBNB is more suitable for applications that want to have an open platform and still enjoy the similar security level as the L1 and an easy way to access running. So this kind of things I would like to recommend using OPBNB. For the DAU, for the DeFi hub or the applications less than 100K DAUs, they can keep using the BSC. That's no problem. If the cost is very sensitive to the developers, of course you can migrate your project to the OPBNB as well. So I'd like to make a simple comparison with Optimism and Arbitrum as well. So you can see here, OPBNB actually allows the lower gas fee and increase the gas limit for our users, which enabling the faster and cheaper transactions. So you can see here, both Optimism and Arbitrum using the ETH as their gas token, but OPBNB is using the BNB token. All of the 3 layer 2 actually are EVM compatible, but the cost that you can see here, the typical transfer cost of OPBNB is much lower than Optimism and Arbitrum. And another thing I want to mention is the block gas limit. OPBNB is 100 million, but Optimism and Arbitrum, they're around 30 million. So that means that higher block limit means a higher TPS, and higher, more stable gas price when you engage with the blockchain. And the block time of the OPBNB is the fastest, which is 1 second per block. But Optimism, it's a 2-second. Arbitrum, a little bit different because the mechanism is kind of the instant. They call it an instant block, so it's not a comparable. All of the 3 chains are 7 days challenge date, and you can see the TPS. OPBNB has the one of the most fastest chain you can find in the market. So here is a simple diagram to introduce how the layer 2 transaction submissions. So you can see here the Optimism rollups are technically makes the computation state upchain, which posting the transaction data on chain as call data, and this way OPBNB can achieve higher scalability and a lower gas fee than BSC alone. And OPBNB uses a special entity called sequencer, which is responsible for aggregating transactions and computing the state transitions and submit them to the rollup contract on the BSC. So this kind of rollup contract to verify the validity of the transactions and updates the state root accordingly, and the sequencer also publishes the state root and the transactions data on the public data availability layer, which is on the BSC, which can be accessed by anyone who wants to verify or challenge the transactions. So it's very straightforward. If you can see that, it's very typical process for almost all the layer 2 transactions. So what kind of the challenges the OPBNB want to solve? Actually, is very straightforward, because again, I just mentioned earlier, the OPBNB is not, it's not just providing another layer 2 on Ethereum. Actually, it is trying to solve the challenges the BSC is facing right now. Here, I'd like to provide an example to introduce why the OPBNB is very important for the BNB chain ecosystem. Crypto Blades actually is a game that lets you fight monsters and craft weapons and crypto. It's very fun, right? But there's a problem, it's not that fast. There's a catch. The game is so popular that's putting the huge strain on the BSC actually. Let me break down for you. The Crypto Blades uses the BSC as its underlying platform. BSC supports the smart contracts and the dApps. It's supposed to be fast and cheap, but it has its limit. According to some, the data we can observe on the chain, the Crypto Blades generates over 8.1 million transactions per day. That's more than any other dApps on the BSC, and more than most blockchain can handle, actually. To put it in perspective, that's about 90 transactions per second, which close to maximum capacity of the BSC. What does that mean for games and network? Well, for one thing, it means that playing Crypto Blades is not cheap. Every transaction on BSC requires a gas fee, and the more transactions there are, the higher gas fee can get. Right now, the Crypto Blades in this diagram have to pay about 6,800 BNB in the gas fee every day. That's a lot of money to spend on a game, right? But that's not all, right? The high volume of the transaction from the Crypto Blades also has effects that the performance of the network. The more congested the network is, the slower transaction get confirmed. It can cause delays and errors for other dApps and DeFi platforms on the BSC. Imagine trying to swap tokens or borrow money on a platform that takes seconds, even minutes, or even longer to respond, or fail to execute your transaction. That'd be very frustrating. So you can see here, the Crypto Blades is not the game. It's not just a game. It's a game that has serious implications that the blockchain ecosystem it operates on. It's a game that could potentially harm the network and its users. So we want to introduce the scalability solution for the BSC. This is another example called Hooped. It is a entertainment education platform. So the DAU also reached to 1 million, and the daily transaction can reach to 60,000 on the chain. So it can cause the network congestion as well. So yeah, so with that in mind, we just want to have a scalable solution that can reduce the cost and provide better performance for the BNB ecosystem. So that's why we invest our efforts and innovations on the OPBNB to provide a better solution for the applications. So what is the differentiator of the OPBNB? I think you can, from this diagram, you can see it very clearly. First, we can have a higher block limit, which is 4,000 TPS, which is 100 million gas per block per second, which is higher capacity compared with the BSC. Of course, other layer 2s as well. And we also build with the open source modular OP stack, Bedrock version, with the BSC optimizations, make it compatible with the BSC as well as compatible with the, the different design of the BSC to have a better user experiences. I just introduced the innovation and technology we have introduced to the OP stack. And it has much lower costs than BSC layer 1, which is less than 0.005 US dollars per native transfer transactions. Here is the BNB chain layer 2 opportunities. What kind of the opportunities we can introduce by introducing the OPBNB? I think the first is the BSC has a large active user base. The OPBNB is compatible with the BSC as well as using the same BNB token. So the BNB users can also benefits from the large user base of the BSC. And also we have introduced the BNB innovations to the OP stack, which can adopt and contribute innovations to the Ethereum ecosystem as well. So the whole layer 2 ecosystem can benefit from the OPBNB. And for the large DAU dApps, for example, with 100K or larger DAU, or high frequent trading applications or cost sensitive dApps, they can just start building on the OPBNB to enjoy this kind of the benefits, which can make their investment return positive instead of the negative. So here, it is the OPBNB frequent asked questions. You can just go to our website and go to the forum to ask any questions if you start building on the OPBNB, as well as you can go to the OPBNB doc site to have a detailed understanding how the new chain can benefit your projects. Right now, OPBNB is released. So I would like to say the OPBNB is not simply optimism fork. It is has a wider. It's part of the BNB wider vision to on the mass adoption and focusing on the user experiences, which is high performance, cheaper, and security instructions. OPBNB is the BSC answer to the scalability challenges that has limited mass adoption of blockchain technology. It has a EVM compatible layer 2 chain and based on the OP stack to further enhance the BSC scalability while preserving the affordability and the security. Yeah, that's pretty much I have. And thank you for your time. And stay tuned to the BNB chain and also contribute your ideas and solutions and your DApps to the ecosystem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy, for that presentation, and congratulations on your mainnet launch last month, some impressive performance results. There are some great resources on your website for those who want to go deeper and get hands-on with OP and BNB as well. All right, it appears like my camera has just turned off for a second, so I'll get that sorted out. But for now, we'll go into hearing from Michael Grills, the product director of Matrix Labs, and they're going to be discussing user values and the metaverse. Thank you, Michael.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us. My name is Michael Grills and I'm the product director here at Matrix Labs. Today I'm going to be talking to you about user values in the metaverse. So let's get to it. As a product developer, there are 5 stages that we need to be concerned with our consumers. They are awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and referral. All of these are the life cycle of a product. So the first question we ask though is why a metaverse at all? Well, when we look at these 2 graphs, one is from the UK and one is from the US, we can actually see why people might be interested in a metaverse. And you can see that the top, if we look at the top activities that people in both the US and the UK are interested in doing and how a metaverse can actually help them, we can see that both are interested in visiting a destination that they may not be able to visit in real life. And then after that it changes, but you'll notice that both in the US and in the UK, playing video games is actually one of the key interests. This pie chart shows the metaverse users by platform. You can see that most of the users are between the age of 3 and 13. You can see very small people are using a VR-based virtual world, and right now even smaller is any on-chain browser and VR-based virtual world. For ages 13 and up, we can see that the user share is growing, and we can expect as the audience ages up that in a few years that age will be the 18 and up as well. So a lot of adults. So how many millions of users are we getting? Well, you can see that from Q2 23 to Q3 23, we've increased 29 million users are going into metaverses. When we look at those same stats on Web3, we see that it's only a small fraction of that population, but it's big enough in the browser app that we at Matrix World have decided that's where we're going to live. This is an easier version of that chart, seeing the growth. You can see that Web 2 is growing quite rapidly, whereas Web 3 is keeping pace, but at a much smaller percentage. In terms of Web 3 developers, for mass adoption, we aren't even close. There are still people around the world who are using email for the first time. That means while we're talking about Web 3 technologies, we have to remember that many people are still using Web 1. They're being introduced to email, basic email right now. This is really important to consider for the next point, which is creating awareness. Because if people aren't even aware of Web 1 technologies, or Web 2 even, it's really going to be hard to explain to them that we're talking Web 3. We should be approaching Web 3 as though the users have never touched the internet before. How do we get customers aware of what we are doing? I like to bring up all the different competitors for a metaverse, any metaverse. What people fail to realize is that we're actually competing for the average person's time. And the average person has got lots of options nowadays for what they want to do. I've included board games as examples, books, vacations, and of course, Netflix. So we're not just competing with other metaverses, we're actually competing for people's time. So we have to be compelling. And how do we be compelling? Well, we first have to grab attention. So it's really important that we as creators in Web3 think about art styles, the features and the benefits of our products, and I stress the benefits, and of course the value for time proposition. And with people wanting to visit places they may not be able to visit in the real world, the trick is to be out of this world. So something I want to warn everybody against is jargon. Jargon is very scary. These words that we use in Web3 are not yet public words. They're not household words. And at this point, nobody knows what they mean. And it's very bad for us to try and use these as value propositions to the general public. They don't understand what it means, nor do they care. A really good example of how this is poorly used is CryptoKitties. Now, CryptoKitties is a very cool product, but I'm just going to pick on one thing. The ERC721 token. Nobody knows what this means. I, as a product developer, mostly in the video game space, still don't really have an understanding of why that would be important. It is not a value proposition for me. What I do understand is these weird and wild cats, which is why I think CryptoKitties is a cool product. But when you throw in jargon like this, who are you talking to? If you're trying to get the average person to start playing CryptoKitties, this is actually going to scare them away. They don't know what that means, and they're going to wonder why it's important. So the question you have to ask is, how does the player benefit by evolving to Web3 without using the jargon? So now you've caught their attention. You've done something cool like CryptoKitties, or in our case, Matrix World. You're starting to get consideration for your product. The key here is to never assume that visitors will explore your brand. You have to communicate to the visitors what they're supposed to do. What do you want them to do? What activities are available? And what experiences do you want them to engage with? Do they need to be guided? Or will visitors seamlessly navigate the space and easily access the desired information or experiences intended for your promotion? Be prepared to give away a lot for free. You got to think of this as more like a marketing play than it is a offer something of value to your residents instead of passively expecting their interaction with your brand. By doing this, you will dilute the commercial aspect and foster an authentic connection with your customers. What can you give away? Experiences, obviously games and tours. You can also give away avatars and anything else that allows a user to start to express themselves. You can also give away space, like land, rooms, decorations, and furniture. Again, more ways for users to express themselves and build upon the functionality that's already there. Reddit is a really good example of putting the customer first when it came to value and benefits when they did their NFT launch. The first thing they did is they put the benefits front and center. Own a piece of your community. Reward the community for real. Unlock special features. Encourage better content and conversation. These are all benefits that they put front and center. They put them in really great cards, and they really made it obvious what the point of getting an NFT was, with the final benefit being that you own your reputation. And then, of course, they have this long explanation. Again, great. But what you'll notice is there's no jargon. There is zero jargon. There's nothing about tokens. And then what they did, which I thought was really smart, is they actually priced their avatars in American dollars, something that everybody can relate to. Right now, if you were to ask the average person what Ethereum is worth to the American dollar, they won't know. It's really important for you to make that crystal clear, because people want to know what they're spending their money on and what their value proposition is. If you look at this chart from Reddit, you can see that they did really, really well on their NFT sales, doing tens of millions. So you've got them to purchase. But you got to remember, it's not a store. A big mistake that we're seeing is people setting up galleries and store shelves as a cooler way to sell NFTs. But the fact of the matter is, it's not actually that cool. It's actually harder. And so if you're thinking that the experience you're going to create is a way to sell things, you're already on the wrong track. Instead, what you want to think about is what value you can give to those users. For example, are you going to help them escape, visit places they've never been before? Are you going to help them to socialize and meet people? Those who are crafters, the people who want to make experiences, are you going to give them the opportunity to earn on their craft like they did in Roblox? And then finally, are they going to be able to own their digital stuff? Make it easy to get in. Currently, wallets are confusing. as an industry, we need to make wallets more understandable and easier to use. One click in. Right now, just to do anything in Web3, it's a ton of reading, a ton of clicks, and nobody's holding your hand to do anything. We've got to get to the point where users can click with one click and most of the work happens on the back end. We need to represent everybody, not just the first in, not the people who are excited by this technology, but the people who can take advantage of it and who will actually benefit from it. And we got to start thinking about business tools for those who are creating these experiences, make it easier for them to get access to their customers. We got to do this in the cheapest way possible for the users. Free access to technology through browsers, mobile phones. You got to create free experiences. Now we know we have all these early adopters, and adoption leads to adoption. To get widespread awareness, we need to make our early adopters have the opportunity to sell Web3 for us. So we got to make it easier to understand so they can explain it better. We got to put the benefits front and center, and we've got to make everything super easy to share. And then, of course, let's remove the risks. More free trials, and please, everybody, make your web services, make it easy to buy. Right now, for most of the Web3 services that we see out there, it is very difficult to buy. Something you should know about gamers, for those of you who are interested in the video game experience side of things. They actually have the opposite of FOMO. They are super skeptical about products. They are incredibly aware of the value they get for their money, and they actually have a love-hate relationship with developers. But here's the great thing about them, is they provide constant feedback, negative or positive, through Reddit, Steam, Twitter, and community pages. But something you should be aware of, and this is why I caution about the jargon, is nobody cares how the engine works. They don't care if you're on Unity, Unreal, Babylon. They don't care. They just want a great experience. There's a huge opportunity, I think, in wallets. I do believe in the end, if MetaMask keeps going the way they're going, that they will be the winner. But here's the thing. Currently, MetaMask is the easiest wallet to get into. And for those of you who keep showing me errors on your pages, you gotta give a reason why. It's not enough to tell the user that their transaction resulted in an error. They need to know why so that they can help debug it or possibly change the way they're using your tool so that they can avoid the errors in the future. There's a huge opportunity in tokens. Everybody's making a token. But the problem is, what the heck is a token? We need to put the features and benefits front and center. We need to make it real for the regular people instead of just for the developers. Stop using jargon. So now you've convinced somebody to take part in your world, your experience, or your product. How do we keep them? Well, we can learn from recent history. Every new technology does a bubble. Ours was the NFT bubble. And we can see that it ended at the end of October 2021. And since then, NFTs usage has totally dropped. Well, what's great about this is now is the time for us to really think, really create compelling products and create value. But what is value? I don't think that question is asked enough. There is no value in knowing which token you're using. There is no value in using the Web3 technology at this point because nothing in Web3 currently relates to family, friends, prestige, work, or recreation. Now, at Matrix Labs, we're working on the recreation portion. And I think a lot of compelling products have come out on the recreation side. But all of us in Web3 need to be thinking about the other 4 categories because that is what people care about. So how do we design games and worlds? At Matrix Labs, we 100% start with our users. It's written into our pillars and our product documentation that everything has to start with the user. And we think about telling their stories. Matrix World has 3 user profiles. We have landowners. They're our initial investors. We have to take care of them just like we would anybody else. Then we have next our crafters. Our crafters are the people who are going to add on to the Matrix World experience by building new outfits, new furniture, new experiences, and give brands the opportunity to create compelling content. And of course, we have our players. And for us, our players are everything. The players are the reason the other two can exist. Something to keep in mind, I've seen a lot of products out there where they're trying to sell the idea that the gamer could be an investor. They're not investors yet. Gamers are looking for experience. Here's a really good example of how a gamer turns into an investor. First, they play the game, then they collect it because of love. The example I have here is Magic the Gathering. Huge community of players who love the game. Collecting the cards is secondary, and when they do collect them, they collect them out of love, often having one deck to play with and one deck just to collect. When you're designing your UX, less is more, and start with your classic Web2 icons and your classic gaming symbols. Every time you introduce a new symbol, you better be ready to explain what it means. But if you can, use the symbols we know. They come from a long 1,000-year history of symbol making, so you might as well keep using them. For your graphic user interface design, prioritize your players and your users. First, create the community. Then give them something to do so that you can create buy-in. That's exactly what Reddit did. Now, Reddit has a very old community, so it was very much easier for them to do that, but you can start creating your communities right away. You do not have to necessarily have a token ready to start creating your community. And actually at Matrix World, we're currently working on a token, but we started with Matrix World and we're creating that community before we start releasing that stuff. And yes, we will be demoing our services for free. We have quite a few services that we're building and they're almost ready to be shown, and users will be able to use them for free. Something we've been thinking about at Matrix World is gas fees. How do we make gas fees easy to understand and obvious to players so that they know exactly what they're spending? Next, we have partners and clients. For them, our user experience is more about showing them opportunities and giving them a market. We will work with clients to create great experiences for their users so that it becomes a marketing play and they can generate a community around what they do. And then we have our staff designers and artists, those on our team, and of course our crafters. And we will work very closely with them, always listening to their feedback. Last but not least is the developers. You got to give them support and clearly document your APIs. It is difficult enough getting this technology set up. Spend a lot of time documenting what you've made and how people can get in and use it. Keep it simple. Matrix World has 5 pillars for success. The first is build a society. Again, talking about community. Then create great experiences. You'll notice we're not charging for those experiences yet. Out of this world, a place to visit. Trade everything. Hey, what's the point of having NFTs if you can't trade them? And then of course, a frictionless experience. We have a goal of one-click accessibility for everything that we do. We have the ability to access multi-chain, multiple wallets, and give users the ability to use their preferred type of token or coin. So it's going to be really important for us to make that easy and for users to not have to worry about what's happening under the hood. We're also offering instance rooms. Now, this is really important. Matrix Labs will have control over the Matrix World portion, but anytime a user is using a room, they will be on a separate server. This allows us to have developers create experiences on their own server and just hook up with the metaverse, or we can provide server technology for them. Either way, depending on your experience, you will have the opportunity to create whatever experience you want without worrying about the same constraints that we do when it comes to optimizing and that sort of thing. We create avatars because every online world needs avatars, and experience makers will get the chance to create designs for them. Finally, we want referral. For a product to really do well, it needs to be referred. And when I talk referral, that means word of mouth. We are focused on a URL entry, one-click entry to any experience. If you're on Matrix World, you will be able to send a short link to market your own experience, but the benefit here is that you're part of a larger community, which means that you can leverage each other and market for each other. I would like to leave you with one thought. What is a metaverse? At this point, Matrix Labs, we're doing what we think a metaverse is, but as people start to engage, that'll change. So I think this is going to be a question for a long time. Web3 is just at the start. Nobody's perfect, and I'm definitely not perfect. You can find all my information here if you want to reach out. Again, thank you for coming to my presentation. I look forward to seeing you in the metaverse.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for that presentation. And yeah, a great take on simplifying for adoption for Web3 and especially for the metaverse as well. Next up, we're going to hear from Shireen Lee, co-founder of Takadao, and they're going to be discussing Secure Your Family, which is a very important topic, Web3 powered cooperative life insurance. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Shireen and I'm the co-founder at Takadao. Thank you ETH Riyadh for having me today and for giving me an opportunity to tell you guys about my story. Really, it begins something like 15 years ago. We had a family friend who, it was a young family. There were 3 children, I remember, a husband and a wife, and the oldest was, I think, 12 years old. One day we received a call that the husband, on a trip to Mecca, on his way back, they were driving, him and his friend, and his friend who was driving fell asleep at the wheel. They hit a very large truck in front of them, and both were killed instantly. We were all really, really shocked. And once we heard the news, we went to her home to provide her with support. And this is a thing that I always remember. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom home. And when I arrived, it was filled with people. There were just women everywhere in the kitchen, in the living room, in the bedrooms, and everybody was there with the same intention like we were, to offer her support. We brought food, we brought money, we brought, offers to help out with the children. And it was an incredibly powerful thing, because that was my first experience with community and how the community is incredible and strong when it's needed to come to someone's aid. Now, fast forward a little bit to rather go backwards a little bit to the 2008 financial crisis. This event really woke me up to the reality of money in our world. Like many people, I suddenly realized that the institutions that we trusted really cannot be trusted. So, okay, for the Gen Zs in the audience, let me explain. The 2008 financial crisis was caused by a bunch of greedy bankers who found a way to make money out of thin air, and they kept pushing it and they kept milking it until the whole thing collapsed. So what happened was banks made a bunch of bad home loans to people who really couldn't afford them, right? So you would be able to get a home, pay nothing for 3 to 6 months, no down payment, nothing, get the keys to a home, and that is your bank loan, right? And actually you couldn't afford to make the payments, but the bank will give you the house anyway. Now, why would people do this? People would do this because they expected the price of the home to increase. So before the first payment kicked in, they would resell the home and make some money. So everybody started doing this because it was easy money. All right. So the banks kept making these loans. And what the banks did in order to, because they knew these were risky loans, but what they did on their end was they bundled these loans together and they made a whole new thing out of, thousands of loans. They made it into a security, and then they sold the security to the unsuspecting public. Now, these are AAA rated securities. So the people who bought this, who invested in these securities, which were made up of thousands of bank loans, they thought it was very safe. Now, what ended up happening, of course, was that eventually this was not sustainable, and it created a housing bubble, and eventually the prices of the home started to collapse, and people started to default on their loans, and the whole house of cards came crashing down. So if you want to learn more about what happened, you can go watch the movie The Big Short. It was fantastic. The result of this, greedy institutions trying to make money out of thin air, was that many people got hurt. Regular people who had nothing to do with banks and insurance companies, who had nothing to do with the stock market, who didn't even take any home loans. But you know what happened? The government, in an effort to bail out the banks, ended up printing a lot of money. And when they did that, they affected everyone in the world. Because when they print money, what you have as your savings decreases in value. And this obviously was a wake-up call to myself and to many, many other people, because the following year, in 2009, the Bitcoin white paper was published. So my journey down the Web3 rabbit hole didn't start then. I took a little detour, and in 2014, my co-founder Morad and myself actually founded a tech company, which was called Mel2. It was a peer-to-peer marketplace for secondhand items. Now, this was an important thing in my journey because it allowed me to understand what tech startups were all about, how to build a tech company. We finally exited that company in the year 2021. Around that time, I met the concept of the DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. This is the first time I met a DAO. I was fascinated. It spoke to me like an old friend telling me familiar stories about community, about decentralization, about the strength that comes from working together. So I immediately thought about my friend from many years ago who was helped by a community, and it became clear to me that the DAOs, or DAOs in general, can do this for people globally. And that's how TechADAO was born. What is TechADAO? Really, it's a community-owned life insurance platform where people pool money together to mutually insure one another. And the key thing here, it's community-owned, which means the profits go back to the community who are the owners and shareholders of the platform. Now, a little bit about the insurance industry. Why insurance? Why do I think DAOs are the perfect vehicle for insurance? Insurance actually started out like DAOs. It's a group of people with shared risks who would put their money together to cover one another in case something happened or something went wrong. 1400 years ago, this was something that was practiced among Arab tribes. Now, this was, way back when. There was a custom of blood money where if a person caused the death of somebody else, this individual, the culprit, would have to pay blood money to the family of the deceased. Now, what would end up happening is there would be tribes where one person from one tribe would cause the death of somebody from another tribe, and he would not have enough money to pay the blood money, and this will end up causing a tribal war. So the tribes were like, well, this is a very stupid reason to go to war. So they actually created the first insurance funds. They pooled money together. It was a standing fund, and all that fund did was pay blood money in case of these situations. And this would avoid inter-tribe wars as well as wars among tribes. And this is kind of an early example of how insurance, the pure form of insurance rather. Unfortunately, of course, just as what happened with the home loans and the banking crisis, insurance as well has been manipulated and has morphed into this industry that seeks to maximize profits at all costs to shareholders. And let me give you an example. I just returned from a trip to San Francisco, and I spoke to many different people, and I discovered that new homeowners in San Francisco and California in general could not get residential insurance because the insurance companies are pulling out of California. They're literally saying we're no longer insuring the residential market in California. Why? Because the insurance companies rather, they lost a lot of money in the past several years due to climate issues like wildfires, especially wildfires. And since they're a profit-seeking industry, they want to increase the premiums and they want to decrease the benefits, which is normal, right? Because it is a for-profit business. However, the regulators have said, no, you cannot do this. So what do the insurance companies do? They said, well, we're losing money, so we're out of here. Now that leaves all new homeowners in California having a very, very tough time getting insured. And if you wanted to get a mortgage to purchase a home, you would need to be able to get insured. So this creates an additional problem because now people are unable to sell their homes because they're unable to, because the people who are trying to buy their homes are unable to get insurance on the homes. This was very eye-opening for me because Americans have the most sophisticated financial system in the world. They have every kind of financial product you can imagine, and they're making new stuff up as we speak. And yet, the fundamental basic of getting home insurance is not available to them. So when I started explaining what we did at TechEdAO, what we're trying to do with decentralized community-owned insurance, they got the concept, they got the value proposition right away. Insurance and the insurance industry in general suffers from one more fatal flaw, which I will call the holy alliance, or rather the unholy alliance between insurance companies and governments. Many types of insurance, as you guys know, is state mandated. That means you have to buy it because it is required by law for you to buy certain types of insurance, whether it's auto, health, property, you name it. Now, this obviously makes insurance companies extremely rich because, you know, this is a captive audience. I have to buy it. On the flip side, the premiums or the reserves of the insurance companies that are collected are required by regulations to be invested in the local stock market and things like government bonds. Now, what that means is a little bit of, well, I make people buy insurance, but the money from insurance needs to then be invested back into instruments that help the government. And this is really why I believe that the insurance industry and the system is broken. And it is ripe for disruption. We need to bring insurance back to its roots, to be a system that protects people rather than protects shareholders and governments. And that's what we're trying to achieve with TechEdAO, with decentralized community-owned insurance. So I've talked to a lot of people and they explain what we're trying to do. And a lot of the first question that usually comes up is, well, that is a great idea, but why do you need the blockchain for this? Why do you need cryptocurrencies? So 3 primary reasons. The blockchain is needed for transparency and governance. That's number 1. Cryptocurrencies are a hedge against inflation. That's number 2. And the global unbanked. Now let's start with crypto. We have a podcast called Tech Talks, so shameless plug right there, where we have guests talk about how crypto plays a part in their lives and their financial systems. We've heard stories from pretty much all over the world, from Venezuela, Lebanon, Egypt, Turkey, and lots of other places, Pakistan. And the stories kind of all echo one another. Essentially, at some point in time, inflation caused their national currencies to be unusable. They caused their national currencies to fail. And the only usable money then became cryptocurrency. Now, these people that we spoke to, they didn't get into cryptocurrency to get rich. They didn't get into cryptocurrency to speculate or to, grow their money. They got into crypto because there was no other money they could use. Now, let's put that in insurance payouts. Would you rather an insurance payout be in money you can use or money you cannot use? Especially life insurance, which you don't expect to pay out today, but maybe in 10, 20, and 30 years. Would you like your payout to be in currency that is rapidly devaluing or in a currency that holds its value? That's why crypto is important. Which then brings me to the subject of the unbanked. Now, the latest figures reported by the World Bank is 1.4 billion unbanked adults. And in the developing world, that's 40% of the population unbanked. So what we need to do, because insurance there's a global need and it's a global problem. So the only way we can serve such a large population of unbanked is through blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I think maybe the most important thing, and yet the most difficult to explain thing for people who don't understand the Web3 and blockchain, is that a community-owned platform needs transparency. It doesn't need a regulator. It doesn't need some centralized party trying to, I guess, control what it does. It needs transparency, and it needs people to know that they can trust the system. And the only technology that ensures this today are distributed ledgers, aka the blockchain, and smart contracts. So what do we do at TechEdAO? And how does it work? TechEdAO is a community-owned life insurance platform. People are pooling money together to mutually insure one another. Now, this is simple enough. To become insured, somebody would purchase a token in the DAO fund or multiple tokens in the DAO fund. The tokens are then staked in smart contracts, which represent the insurance contract. The insurance contracts obviously have an expiration date that is like any typical life insurance contract. There is this period of validity. Now, prior to expiration, the insured cannot trade or redeem their tokens, right? In case nothing happens to the insured and there's no claim against the insurance contract, the smart contract then expires, the tokens are released, and now the insured can come back to the DAO and redeem the tokens, which will be burned for their underwriting surplus, all right, which is the residual value of the insurance contract. So part of the proceeds that are generated from the token sales are also invested for a return. And this is why there is usually a residual value of the insurance contract. The token, which is the beautiful thing about digital assets, the token of the DAO entitles the holder to governance rights. They include voting rights on high-level decisions, such as who sits on the board of trustees. So, okay, people often ask, well, then how do you determine who gets what in the event of a claim? So at the time when somebody comes and stakes their tokens in a smart contract, they go through a process of underwriting, where their risk is assessed based on things like their age, their gender, their location, and they will be assigned what we call a benefit multiplier. This benefit multiplier is what determines how much you will receive in the time of a claim. So suppose there is a relatively healthy youngish man, he may be assigned a benefit multiplier of 250x, all right? Now, these are all done in risk matrices. Okay, never mind. This is all done in a risk matrix that is transparent and published to the DAO members. So let's say he has a benefit multiplier of 250x. Now, if he has $100 worth of tokens staked in his insurance contract, and there is a claim, then his family will receive 100 times 250x, which is roughly $25,000 of a benefit. Now, remember that the DAO is owned by its members. It's not owned by us, the company. We are simply service providers to the DAO. The members, they are also the insured. They are the true owners and shareholders of the DAO by virtue of their token ownership. So in order to protect the interests of the DAO, we have an additional concept called the benefit multiplier adjuster. And this is applied in case there's a catastrophic event and there are more claims than expected or than is normal. So for example, in a situation where you have a global pandemic, like during COVID, all of the insurance benefits from claims would have been adjusted downwards to ensure that the DAO, number one, doesn't become insolvent, i.e. does not run out of money, and to make sure that coverage continues. Because once the DAO runs out of money, then there is no longer coverage for people who came later. And so all of the benefits are adjusted downwards. And this is an algorithm that we have created. And the most important thing here is that, once again, the DAO is community owned. And what that means is that if there's any underwriting surplus, so if we have more money than we expected, then this underwriting surplus is redistributed among token holders who are themselves insured. And this happens during token redemptions. Today, we are hard at work building TechADAO, and our treasury management product, Techaturn, is actually going to be launched to public today. This is the first layer before the insurance DAO is launched, and it's a community savings and loan program that will seed the insurance fund. TechADAO is very much about community, and without the community, it is nothing. So we would love for you to join our community and to help us build decentralized, community-owned insurance here at TechADAO. If you want to be a part of the future of decentralized insurance, then join us. And thank you for listening to my presentation. And as a token of appreciation, we have a free NFT airdrop. If you would like to get your free NFT, please scan this code and I will see you soon. Thank you.
There you go, your chance to receive a free NFT as well. Thank you, Shireen. Always great hearing from people who are passionate experts in their field, and very interesting hearing about the background of insurance and what your DAO is doing as a community-owned life insurance platform. Next up, we're going to hear from Professor Liu Xiaofan from the City of University of Hong Kong, and they're going to be discussing There's Nothing New Under the Sun, Blockchain Data Analytics. Thank you.
Hello, participants of ETH Riyadh. My name is Liu Xiaofan, and I am from the Department of Media and Communication, City University of Hong Kong. I'm very glad to be invited by the organizer to give a talk here, although it's a pity that I can't be here with you in Riyadh in person. So the theme of today's talk will be about blockchain data analytics. I am going to introduce you about the very basic, very foundation of how to do blockchain data analytics and what can be done with such a set of techniques. Since blockchain's inauguration in 2008, it has accumulated about 900 million transactions in total, in between more than 1 billion addresses, blockchain addresses. For Ethereum, it has a slightly higher throughput than blockchain, and it has accumulated in the past 10 years more than 2 billion transactions in total, and among more than 240 million and more accounts, which are also blockchain addresses. So blockchain data analytics is a lot about analyzing the millions and billions transactions stored in those public blockchains among millions and billions of addresses, which are held by about 10 million or more users. Before we can analyze the blockchain data, we have to understand how they are stored in blockchains in their native forms. So there are approximately two categories of data structures, or how transactions are stored in native blockchains. So our left-hand side, we can see an UTXO data model, which stands for unspent transaction data model. And this data model is used by blockchain and Litecoin, and by Bitcoin, Litecoin, and all the other this kind of blockchains. So in this kind of data model, each transaction, which means somebody is transferring money to somebody else, looks like this. So on the left-hand side, there are addresses, and on the right-hand side, there are also addresses. They can be owned by the same people or different people. So the holders of the addresses on the left-hand side or on the input side, they pool money together and transfer these money into or to the people on the right-hand side. Now, this is a single transaction. And on the right-hand side, we can see an account-based data model, which is used by ETH and all the other later or modern blockchains. So in such a data model, we can see, first of all, in its very basic form, money or Ether or the native cryptocurrency of this blockchain is transferred from one address to another address. And this address here is also called external address, external owned address, or in short form, EOA. On the right-hand side is either an EOA or COA, which stands for a contract address. So this is a simple transaction. The ETH, as you might know, adds another layer of virtual machine, or this kind of blockchain can execute computer codes. So in this transaction, rather than only transferring native cryptocurrencies, one user of this blockchain can also call a function stored in such a blockchain. So we know that for every program calls, there will be something executed, some computer programs executed, and there will be some results. or outputs or returned values from that blockchain calls. Okay, so many of the time, such a function call will result in another transaction between an external address, contract address, and another external address or a contract address. And there will be also something transferred. Usually that's an NFT or that's an ERC20 token, or it's just a result or the output of these lines of computer codes. So on the run side, it's account-based data model. So this is the blockchain data structure that we have to understand before we can begin to analyze blockchain data. So in order to analyze the blockchain data, usually we will build a blockchain data infrastructure for extracting, transferring, and loading the native format of blockchain data into a high-performance database. And such a procedure usually consists of 3 steps. The first step is called blockchain data ETL or extraction. We first synchronize blockchain nodes using native ETL tools, usually shipped with these blockchain nodes. That means the community developing such a blockchain usually will give you a tool for extracting data, extracting transactions from the blockchain node. And then we usually store these extracted transactions into an intermediary database. Usually it's a NoSQL database, for example, MongoDB, or any kinds of data warehouse. And these kind of intermediary database or data warehouse are for storing data and executing simple queries. But in order to do a higher level of data analytics, or if you really desire high performance data analytics, you will usually need another kind of database, a high performance database. For blockchain data analytics, usually we use graph database, for example, Neo4j, or we use online analytics database, OLAP database, for example, ClickHouse. And they're used for different kinds of analytic purposes, high performance analytic purposes. But if you are not able to, or if you are not facilitated with the resources to build a complete data infrastructure, you can always use online services, websites that provide you with simple query interfaces, for example, Dune and the Footprint. And starting from there, you can, well, gradually build your analytics skills before you really decided to go deep into this blockchain data analytics theme and build your own infrastructure. Okay, so suppose you have built a data infrastructure. What can you do with all these kind of data? Well, actually, there are really a lot of things that you can do. So the first thing, there's a very mature industry of such a task that is tracing and linking transactions out there. For example, for those of you who are familiar with the concept of a dark web, we know that, okay, it's an encrypted place on the internet and facilitating illicit or, well, gray area merchandise. 10 years ago, the biggest forum or the biggest marketplace on the dark web is called the Silk Road. Okay, so how did the FBI brought down this forum is that, okay, they were able to, well, download the Bitcoin blockchain, extract the Bitcoin transactions, and looked into the transaction graph, which you can see in the middle, and linking transactions related to that dark web marketplace until they have, well, located the founder or the administrator of that forum and arrested this guy. So this is how you use the entire blockchain transaction graph and try to link addresses using the transaction traces. And now when we hear about the term of anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing, or know your transactions in blockchain's term, basically people are doing this. Okay, they tag addresses with known identities and trace forward or backward from this address to the other addresses and associate the other addresses with, for example, dirty money or illicit transaction money here. But of course, there is a mixing services, you might want to say. Well, mixing services are the services that, well, combine multiple transactions together and making virtually a transaction with, say, hundreds of inputs and hundreds of outputs, so that the real money flow, okay, when you combining these different transactions together, you are actually mixing clean money and dirty money together, so that you won't be able to trace where dirty money went through this mixing services. But bear in mind that there is also ways, methods to dissect these mixing services. For example, using graph matching techniques. Or simply put, any money that went through mixing services, for example, Tornado Cash, could be tagged risky money or dangerous money. Okay. Okay, this is the first thing that you can do. You can trace transactions. The second thing you can do is that you can look at the entire graph, the shape of the graph, calculate the structure of that graph. And the structure will tell you something. The structure of a week's Bitcoin transaction probably looks like this. Now, this was from 2016 or 15 from one of my research paper. You can calculate, you can look at, you can see that, okay, the transaction, the millions of transactions here, they form a specific shape. And 10 years ago, a group of MIT researchers, they calculated some metrics. Here they calculate the singular value decomposition of the transaction matrix, or that transaction graph that I just showed you. And they found that, okay, the most significant vectors and the value of it, the fluctuation of the value of it, can be associated or is very similar with the blockchain prices, the trend of blockchain prices during this 2 years' time. So that you know that, okay, the structure of this graph may bear the power of predicting blockchain or any cryptocurrency prices. And since then, 10 years later, well, there are many, many, many ways of predicting cryptocurrency prices using features extracted from the blockchain transaction graph. Okay. Speaking of the features of transaction graphs, actually these features can be used for characterizing individuals or de-anonymizing blockchains. Okay, so blockchain address. These addresses are defined to be anonymous addresses. So no personal identity is associated with any blockchain address. Okay, this is true. This is true. Until you really begin to use your blockchain address publicly. Human beings leave many kinds of traits on the internet. And well, when they use blockchain addresses, they also publish their entire behavior associated with the blockchain addresses in the public blockchains. So using these behaviors, we can build machine learning algorithms, we can build methods to detect or to decide what kind of user you are, or what kind of user owns this blockchain address. Okay, so on the internet, there are already, well, people have already collected thousands and tens of thousands of known identities associated with blockchain addresses. For example, exchanges, of course, they will publish their addresses. And also, well, users, they will also, well, paste their blockchain addresses sometimes in the signatures on their forum interactions, on their Twitter posts. Well, those security firms, blockchain security firms, when they help exchanges or bigger Web3 institutions to build their know your transaction systems, they will even collect millions or more users tags associated blockchain addresses. And now you can extract blockchain transaction features such as the volume, tempo, network structure, and even contract codes associated with the blockchain address. For example, volume, that is, okay, in the past 1 year, how many Bitcoins have you transacted through this address? By saying tempo, we mean, okay, in the past 1 month, how many days have this blockchain address or have these blockchain addresses surfaced in public blockchains. And for network structure, we're talking about how many counterparts have this blockchain address transacted with in the past period of time, and how many counterparts do these counterparts have and eventually they form a network structure. For contract code, of course, if this is a smart contract address, we will be able to read sometimes the source codes, and most of the time the machine readable codes. And we can build features from those contract codes. Using these features and associated with supervised learning methods, be them decision trees or neural networks, or even fancier machine learning algorithms, we can de-anonymize, or we can characterize the type of user associated with this address. And with unsupervised learning algorithms on these features, we can detect anomaly addresses, or we can detect anomalous transactions from the blockchain transactions. And potentially we can identify illicit transactions or very special market signals. Okay, for example, on the right-hand side, this was a research done 6 years ago. And this group of researchers, they have, applied their machine learning model on all the blockchain addresses, on all the Bitcoin blockchain addresses. And they found out, okay, 1/3 of the Bitcoin addresses are owned by individual persons, and 1/4 are owned by exchanges, and so on and so forth. So these are 3 very basic things that we can do with blockchain data. Because of time limit, I cannot go deeper down into the details. But one take-home message that we can get is that the one true significance of blockchain compared to other kind of databases out there is its transparency. Now, with this transparency, only with this transparency, we build trust. Now, but for, individual persons, individual users, and those of you or those of, them who want to do illicit activities using cryptocurrencies, they have to bear in mind that they are being watched all the time by everybody through blockchain data analysis. Okay. Like I said, these are just the very basic, very fundamental things that people can do. But if you want to do more, if you want to learn more and do more, and you decided to go deep down into this blockchain data analytics rabbit hole, there are some directions for you to consider. So we have only mentioned that, okay, we do data analytics with blockchain transaction data. But apart from blockchain transaction data, there are many other data sources. For example, on the blockchain, we have the mempool, that is the unpackaged, unconfirmed transactions currently or provisionally holds in a blockchain's node. They will be, of course, packaged into blockchain into blocks in a very short time, for example, 10 minutes or 10 seconds. But analyzing these data can give you a competitive edge to other data analytics peers because you can see things happening faster than them. Okay, and you can also look at network data and see how many blockchain nodes are there online on the internet, and you can find your own way to analyze to find and analyze layer 2 network data, for example, the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And also, well, many of the time, media data and social media data can be very helpful. And to go deeper into the data analytics road, we will analyze many user behaviors, cryptocurrency and token users' behaviors. For example, we analyze their money laundering behavior, their gambling behavior, their behaviors in crypto, in blockchain games, or in any other Web3 applications, the decentralized physical infrastructure trends now, okay? And also we can analyze people's behavior in the secondary markets, how they pump and dump, and how they trying to and how people trying to manipulate the entire market. There are many things can do, and these things, they can all turn into businesses. They all have very good commercial values and academic values, of course. Okay, so, well, it's almost time here. Thank you very much if you have stayed with me until here. So if you want to know more about blockchain data analytics, or you want to learn more about it, you're welcome to contact me. I'm Liu Xiaofan from City University of Hong Kong. And my research group is also sponsored by a very large governmental research and development initiative. And we also have a research team inside the laboratory for AI-powered financial technology. This is a very big research lab in Hong Kong, and also sponsored by or spun off from this laboratory. We have our own data analytics small company, startup company called Euribia.xyz. Now you're welcome to visit our website. And this is the Twitter account here. And you are also welcome to find my email address online and drop me several lines to say hi. Okay, I think that's all. And thank you very much again. I hope to see you in person or receiving your emails in the future. Bye-bye.
All right, great presentation for those wanting to go deeper and learn more about data analytics. Thank you, Professor Liu Xiaofan. We're now going to have a break. So currently it's 11:33 a.m. local, and what we'll be doing is having a break until 2 o'clock. So that's roughly 2.5 hours from now. If you are streaming, feel free to leave the window open and you'll hear us talking again once we continue. But yeah, approximately 2.5 hours from now, GMT +3, 2 o'clock. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. All right, we are back and we are live. Thank you for joining us again, and welcome back to ETH Riyadh 2023 Online Mixer. We now have 4 more presentations to get through before we conclude our Mixer event. Up next, we'll hear from Herbert, the GM of Asia and Definity Foundation, and they're going to be discussing improving data security and extending interoperability on Ethereum. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Hello ETH Riyadh. Thank you for having me. My name is Herbert Yang. I'm the General Manager for Asia from Divinity Foundation. Today, I'd like to talk about improving data security and extending interoperability of the Ethereum network. I will share several recent innovations and technical breakthroughs from the ICP ecosystem. So let me first briefly introduce who we are and what we do. Divinity Foundation is one of the oldest foundations in crypto, created by our founder and chief scientist, Dominic Williams, in October 2016 in Zurich, Switzerland, as a non-profit foundation. We are a very research-oriented team and has some of the best cryptographers and computer scientists in our R&D organization, including Jans Gross, who pioneered ZK Snark, Jans Kamenesh, our CTO and IEEE fellow, who used to lead IBM's lab in Switzerland. Victor Shoup, who co-authored the famous cryptography textbook with Dan Bonnet, and Ben Lin, the L in the BLS algorithm. So with that introduction, let me dive into today's topics. I will share 4 technical breakthroughs in recent months from the developers in the ICP ecosystem. They tackle 4 important questions for crypto: how to get data from Web 2 without using Oracle, how to store private data in smart contract, how to sign transactions on any blockchain without breach, and what about another vertical roll-up solution for Ethereum that's fast and cost efficient. So before we go deeper, let me take one step back to give you some context so that you can connect some dots in the following slides. For developer, what's the difference between developing on ICP versus developing on Ethereum in broad strokes? To build a fully fledged web application, a developer needs to write Solidity smart contract that's executed in EVM and runs on the Ethereum network, host the front end somewhere, often on Amazon Web Services, and store the data somewhere on services such as IPFS. For ICP, we call our smart contract Canister, which is lightweighted Docker with stable memory up to 100 gigabyte memory that can do 3 things in one: decentralized ledger, computation, and data storage. Canister can be of any type of web service, from a DeFi protocol, an NFT smart contract, a DAO proposal, steady website, or just a good old-fashioned software as a service product, or just online game. So another important concept is subnet. ICP handles horizontal scaling by using subnet, which often consists of 13 replicas of known machines. The number based on the required level of security can be adjusted up or down. It's a balance between security and performance. With that out of our way, let's talk about the first issue: how to fetch data from Web 2. The majority of world's data is hosted on Web 2 services that's out of reach for blockchains. Blockchains are isolated islands that just cannot pull in data or push out data to any external system. This is one reason that makes smart contract deterministic. They execute exactly as they are written, with much higher level of certainty than traditional systems. But this is also a major showstopper for crypto to achieve mass adoption. The current industry solution is to use Oracle. Off-chain Oracle providers read from data source and write to a dedicated smart contract on Ethereum. Other smart contract can then read this data by requesting to the Chainlink contract on Ethereum. This method, very popular, has a few downsides. It requires off-chain infrastructure that defeats the purpose of online decentralization. You have to trust the third party that may or may not have malicious intent. It introduces additional point of failure and could be costly for use cases that are not widely used. So Divinity's R&D team introduced a feature called HTTP outcalls a few months ago that will enable Canister smart contract to request a URL so that the Canister can directly obtain off-chain data or interact with an off-chain system such as a typical Web 2 service or just enterprise IT infrastructure. This is how it works. Let's say a Canister smart contract needs to fetch Bitcoin price from Coinbase. It requests an outcall. Every node in the subnet makes an HTTP request to the target server on Coinbase and receives a response. Each node then locally processes the result. When the nodes on this subnet are able to reach consensus on what the response to the request should be, they include it as a special type of payload in an IC block. Once this block is finalized, it's passed on to the execution layer, which will deliver the HTTP response back to the original Canister. The Canister can then resume the original smart contract call and safely use the HTTP response to change its state without risking divergence across replicas. So essentially, HTTP outcalls can do what blockchain oracles are doing now. And what you will get as a developer is a higher level of trust. Your choice is between trusting a decentralized layer 1 blockchain network versus trusting an independent oracle entity. You'll also get out-of-box solution from HTTP outcalls and don't have to make a series of complex decisions, say choosing between a single or multiple oracles and how to reduce cost and speed up the request. For the end users, they will get cheaper service in the end because the oracle middleman is no longer needed when smart contracts begin to use HTTP outcalls functionality. So overall, the canister HTTP outcalls feature allows us to achieve what oracles do, but in a much more robust model, in a much more decentralized fashion. So moving on to the second issue, confidentiality is a major problem for blockchain. It's even worse than what we got in Web 2. A lot of clear text data are transmitted on many servers or even on public blockchains. There are several industry solutions at the moment. One is trusted execution platforms such as AMD's SEV SMP or Intel's SGX to ensure that even node operators won't be able to see what's inside the node machines they own. But they have poor track record against adversaries with physical access, so it remains to be seen how effective this method is. Alternatively, you can also share the secret, but it doesn't scale very well. Another popular method is to do zero knowledge or MPC, but it only works for limited functionality on Zcash and Monero, not so much for general execution. The last one is to use encryption key management by users, but this one lacks hardware support and often relies on web browsers for storage, which is insecure and inconvenient, and it has a rather appalling user experience when users want to synchronize across multiple devices. So with traditional public key encryption, each user has its own public and private key pair. For Bob to send an encrypted message to Alice, Bob needs a public key of Alice. Saving your private key securely has become the holy grail for crypto. But is that the only way? Not necessarily. Just last month, the engineers in Definity's R&D team developed a solution that can save private data in a canister smart contract and no longer need key pair. It's called verifiable encrypted threshold keys, or just VEC keys in short. VEC keys leverages identity-based encryption, or IBE. So with IBE, users don't need to generate separate key pairs. They can just use their identity, like an ID number or just email address, as their public key. IBE will encrypt the file using a master public key together with the user's ID. Users can encrypt files using their ID and decrypt files using the decryption key derived from the private key generator, or PKG. Through the PKG's master key, a unique decryption key can be computed for every ID. So with IBE, user just needs to hold on to one master public key. This makes key management much simpler. However, there is a catch. IBE relies on a trusted third party, a private key generator to generate the master key pair. So IBE actually knows everyone's decryption key. If this PKG is compromised, all user data is lost. So that's not going to work for us. So Divinity team came up with a distributed key derivation scheme called VEC keys. VEC key uses the nodes on ICP subnet to replace the private key generator in an identity-based encryption. As the chart illustrates, multiple nodes will jointly generate the master key. No individual node knows the final key. There's no single point of failure. Even if some nodes are compromised, the actual private key will not be directly revealed. Compared to traditional schemes, VEC keys does not rely on a trusted execution environment and has a higher security level. Users can encrypt private data. Nodes will collaborate to decrypt the key and send it to the user without revealing the actual key in the process. Moreover, a single subnet public key can derive unlimited separate identity keys. This unlocks a whole new paradigm on blockchain that's never seen before in the history of the internet. It means we can now finally have real end-to-end encryption for many web applications such as private chat and private payment. There are many interesting use cases for VACs. Really, you are only limited by your creativity. End-to-end encryption of messages and data storage are the two obvious cases with massive market potential. Some food for other thoughts. Diamond Switch, how about for journalists, dissidents, and whistleblowers? They can now reveal secret or sensitive content to collaborators at a predetermined time and date. How about digital inheritance to pass down digital assets and write a canister smart contract as your digital will? How about encrypting messages to the future, sort of on a predetermined time and date? And how about swapping assets across blockchains for DeFi using VACs as signature by the decentralized app instead of implementing another light client? How about secret bidding auctions to prevent MEV or the minor extracted value, which has cost the industry at least $600 million since 2020? There are many more ideas. Again, this is the whole new world waiting for you to discover. So please do check out the documentation on the link and try out VACs for yourself. The third issue we want to tackle today is integrating multiple blockchains. We live in a multi-chain world, but the blockchains don't talk to each other that much. If they do, the communication is not very secure. Current DeFi solutions are too blockchain dependent or very homogeneous. They offer very little interoperability, and almost all of them rely on centralized bridges. And all the centralized bridges that involve human will be compromised in the end. It's not a question of if, but more of a matter of when. So the solution from the Divinity team to solve this cross-chain integration issue is to use threshold ECDSA to sign everything. Let's use the Bitcoin network as an example. If we want to integrate with Bitcoin, that means Canister smart contract needs to talk to the Bitcoin mainnet. The key challenge is that Bitcoin network will only accept signed transactions. Smart contract cannot hold private key because it will be replicated over many different node machines. So what we need is an ECDSA signing service that can give a public key to the smart contract and sign a message for this smart contract so that the smart contract can now talk to the Bitcoin network. Under the hood, the nodes jointly run a secure multi-party computation protocol to sign the message. No single node knows anything about the secret signing key. Therefore, no single node or even a small minority can forge a signature. So far, this is very classic from the 80s cryptography, so not exactly anything new. In order for this to work in blockchain today, with the performance that we need some additional requirements, such as tolerating malicious nodes of maybe up to 1/3, assuming that asynchronous communication at some nodes could be going down and because of DOS attack and won't always be online at the same time, as the internet as today is just very unstable. And also we need to guarantee output delivery to make sure a signature can be generated fast and deterministically in the end. That's not always easy. So this one page I really want to just explain how threshold ECDSA works. Our principal researcher Yang Gross recently had a China roadshow and did quite a few academic talks for the top researchers and cryptographers in China to explain the whole threshold ECDSA at several top universities. So please do check out our Twitter for the link to the video for a more detailed walkthrough. So threshold ECDSA is a foundation protocol that makes it possible to have direct integration with just any blockchain, from Bitcoin to Ethereum. We no longer need to have decentralized or centralized bridge and place blind trust in a third party. Canister smart contracts on IC can send messages that is signed by the ECDSA service, which runs on ICP, that will be recognized and accepted by Bitcoin mainnet. Essentially, this means Bitcoin can now have smart contract capabilities. Bob can write a Canister smart contract that says, set up a recurring payment schedule to send 0.1 BTC to 100 wallet addresses every month for the next 6 months. That is not possible with a direct integration of BTC and ICP. And Divinity team is now working with developers in the community to work on direct integration between ICP and Ethereum. Once this feature becomes available in the coming months, smart contracts on ICP and Ethereum can make API calls to each other and achieve true cross-chain interoperability. ICP will have the potential of becoming another very valuable layer 2 on Ethereum. Which begs the next and last question. How do we do that exactly? I mean, for ICP to join the EVM family. EVM is already a big family with many blockchains. Currently, a canister smart contract is not compatible to EVM, and this creates a considerable barrier for Solidity developers to use ICP and leverage ICP's unique features. For example, no dependency on centralized clouds, as canister can host front end of web applications. Low latency for crucial data, as ICP's update calls can achieve 1 to 2 seconds finality. ICP can also reduce friction for end users, as its unique DID solution, Internet Identity, uses a biometric authentication method that's already familiar to billions of mainstream users. So we have an intermediary solution now that is called EVMC, or EVM on IC, that is developed by the Bifinity team. Bifinity is one of the most experienced developer studios in the IC ecosystem that has been building on ICP since our mainnet genesis 2 years ago. So a few months ago, it successfully deployed EVM on the IC canisters. It consists of 4 components. The EVM API canisters serve as the entry points to the system, where they receive requests from Ethereum clients and internet computer agents. Once received, those requests are batched into a pending transaction pool. Then the EVM executed canister will process these transactions, update the global EVM state and the blockchain canister accordingly. The blockchain canister itself is the structure that contains the Ethereum chain blocks. It persists in the internet computer stable canister storage, which has a current size limit per canister of 48 gigabytes. There are plans now by the Divinity team to expand the state storage to 1 terabyte in the coming year, which would then allow EVMC to persist the entire Ethereum blockchain data in a single canister. Next, the signature verifier canisters are used to verify the signature of an Ethereum transaction, which is a very computationally expensive task that is performed in a dedicated pool of canisters to avoid too much overhead in the EVM API canisters. So what can you do now with EVMC? You can now deploy another Ethereum layer 2 network that's faster and cheaper, entirely on the IC canisters, without the trouble of setting up its own network of layer 2 nodes, because that part is already taken care of by the ICP network. So try it out. There are other innovative features from ICP that could be interesting for developers, but we won't have the time today to cover all of them, such as hosting front end of your web applications, reverse gas fee that lowers the onboarding cost for your users, service nervous system, what we call the SNS, that can decouple the ownership of the decentralized app from the founders to achieve true, shall we say, immortality. And also Internet Identity mentioned earlier that can reduce security risk from centralized browsers. So let's recap. There are unique strengths from Ethereum and ICP ecosystems in several areas. Recent breakthroughs in ICP such as HTTP outcalls, VECTIs, threshold ECDSA, and EVM on IC can really help Ethereum to have higher data security and improve cross-chain interoperability. So putting these strengths together, maybe, just maybe, we can have world computer at last. Last but not the least, it's great to have this opportunity to share these exciting technology innovations from ICP to the developer community at the ETH Riyadh. This is where you can touch base with us, and we want to invite all the Solidity developers to explore what we can do together. Thank you very much for your time.
Brilliant. Apologies there. I was having some sound issues. Thank you, Herbert, for that. There are some very interesting solutions for that, for that going forward. And yeah, looking forward to the future and seeing what ICP comes up with. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Anna, the marketing director of Netverse, and they're going to be discussing essential infrastructure for Web3. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Anna, the Marketing Director of Metaverse. Thank you for inviting me to give a keynote speech at ETH Riyadh 2023. Metaverse is a blockchain project dedicated to providing secure, convenient, and efficient server solution for Web3. Our goal is to become an essential infrastructure for Web3. Today, I'm also very honored to introduce this exciting project in Metaverse. First, let's take a look at this table. This table compares the advantages and disadvantages of traditional cloud computing architecture and decentralized cloud architecture from 5 aspects: data storage, security, availability, performance, and costs. From the perspective of data storage, data in traditional cloud computing is usually stored in centralized data centers, which are managed and controlled by a single server provider, right? In contrast, in decentralized cloud computing, data is stored in a distributed manner across multiple nodes in the network, and each node can independently operate and manage its data. In terms of security, traditional cloud computing mainly relies on service provider, while the data in decentralized cloud platform is distributed across multiple nodes, making it difficult to obtain complete data at the same time. So from the perspective of availability, the decentralized cloud platform with multi-node development has a greater ability to prevent widespread failures. Regarding performance, traditional cloud computing can easily concentrate resources on a large scale, but decentralized cloud computing has a higher limit in achieving large-scale parallel computing. And for the last one, in terms of costs, traditional cloud computing is a capital-intensive industry, while decentralized cloud servers mainly rely on consensus mechanism to incorporate idle servers into the network. Let's look at the next page. Well, decentralized cloud service platform is a new cloud computing model that uses distributed network technology to distribute computing and also storage and network resources to various network nodes instead of concentrating them in a single data center. And the core idea of decentralized cloud service platform is to use blockchain technology and distributed network technology to establish a public, a transparent, and a tamper-proof distributed computing and also storage environment. Well, Metaverse is a decentralized cloud computing marketplace that aims to redefine the cloud market by providing low-cost, highly flexible, and secure cloud computing services. Therefore, one of the target users of Metaverse is users who need to use cloud computing services, especially those who require low-cost, highly flexible, and secure and reliable services. When it comes to Metaverse, the first thing to introduce is Anychain. Anychain is a protocol token that operates on a new proof of resource. We call it a POR mechanism. Its blockchain is created collaboratively by service provider and validators. The Anychain protocol token facilitates the provision of secure and also efficient and cost-effective services by coordinating service provider resources. Here, let me explain how it works. First, users pay tokens to access cloud resources. Then validators earn tokens by providing POR proofs. The third, cloud service provider earn tokens by providing cloud resources and staking tokens. For auditor earn community reward tokens by auditing cloud service providers. Well, Anychain protocol is built on 5 components: decentralized cloud service platform, UDS, new proof of resource POR mechanism, verifiable market, and effective resource proof and smart contracts. What does the technology implementation of metaverse look like? You can see the architecture diagram of our various functional models. Below, I will introduce the technical implementation of metaverse from several aspects, including POR resource proof, consensus participation roles, and the POR challenge algorithm, smart contract implementation, and consensus algorithm. First is POR resource proof. POR is a new type of resource proof. It relies on the collaborative operations of validators and providers to create blocks. Our approach is an interactive protocol in which the prover P commits to providing a declared amount of cloud computing resources, and then B convinces validators through a challenge protocol that P has indeed provided the declared amount of cloud computing resources. Validators then submit the resource to the chain to prove to other validators that the provider has indeed provided the declared amount of cloud computing resources. This approach can prevent attacks such as Sybil attack, outsourcing attack, and selfish mining. Next is consensus participation roles of metaverse, which include 4 roles like cloud server provider, validator, auditor, and ordinary users. Cloud server provider plays the role of providing servers that meet the official requirement to metaverse. These servers need to be verified by validators before they can join the metaverse network. This decentralized architecture makes the metaverse network more secure and reliable, as there is no single entity controlling the entire network. In addition to being a server provider, cloud service provider can also mine blocks through the metaverse client. During the mining process, cloud service provider can choose to stake tokens, which can increase the chance of successful mining, and the number of tokens staked in proportional to the chances of successful mining, which can incentivize cloud service provider to making more contribute to the metaverse network. Validators are a very important role, and their responsibilities covers multiple aspects, including auditing the server provided by cloud service providers, participating in chain consensus verification, maintaining the chain and mining blocks, participating in community governance, and completing decision-making autonomously among validator nodes. Auditor is a tool that can audit all cloud service providers with the aim of helping users choose the right cloud service provider. Auditor can conduct comprehensive audits of all providers and label providers with problems or characteristics, such as security, performance, and scalability. When deploying cloud services, users can choose to fill out certain labels to better select cloud service providers that meet their needs. And for cloud service providers with a serious problem, auditor will submit audit reports to the platform as a basis for targeted punishment of cloud service providers. This will ensure the cloud service providers can provide good services and protect the interests of users. And the audit process of auditor is automated using various tools and techniques to evaluate the quality and reliability of cloud service providers. It checks aspects such as the provider's infrastructure, networks, security measures, and generate detailed reports. Users can view these reports to better understand the provider's situation and making the choices. Well, regular users can enjoy rich features and services in metaverse, including creating and deploying smart contracts, transfer funds, and more. At the same time, AnyChain also provides a cloud marketplace where users can purchase your favorite cloud services to meet different application needs. And to facilitate the development of user applications, the AnyChain platform provides stack definition languages. We call it SDL. SDL is a YAML-based language used to describe the development environment and the configuration of applications. Users can define the resources and services required by the applications, as well as their dependencies through an SDL file. Then users can use the command line tools or web interface provided by AnyChain to deploy their applications. And in addition to these features and services, AnyChain can also provide other tools and services to help users better manage and monitor their applications. Well, once again, the PR challenge algorithm of Metaverse is presented. The PR algorithm is divided into preparation, computation, and verification stages. The entire process is showing in the following figure. You can see it. Well, the following is the implementation of the smart contract in Metaverse. Metaverse provides users with solidity-based smart contracts that can provide scalable functionality to users. And based on the requirements and mainly function of Metaverse, there are currently 3 roles contract on the blockchain. The first one is a provider factory, auditor factory, and a validator factory. The provider factory contract mainly provide functions such as creating provider identities, reporting resources, pledging tokens, and providing collateral. And the auditor factory contract mainly provide functions such as creating auditor identities, reporting audit information, and acquiring audit information. The validator factory contract mainly provided functions such as creating validator identities and pledging tokens. Finally, there is the Metaverse consensus algorithm. We call it Metaverse consensus. The Metaverse consensus is a resource-based proof of reputation consensus algorithm, and its core idea to use the PR challenge of validators to verify whether the resources provided by providers are legitimate and whether there is cheating. And specifically, the operation process of this algorithm is as follows. This is the lucky value settlement formula in our algorithm, and this algorithm process is designed to continuously supervise the resource quality of providers and ensure that they can continue to provide reliable services. And here are some competitors that we can see in the market. Currently, most of these competitors are storage projects. There are relatively few projects like in Metaverse that aim to create a decentralized cloud server. This is because creating a decentralized cloud server project is complex, presents high performance challenges, and has significant technical difficulties in the field of blockchain projects. In the roadmap, we have a lot to do in the future. Upgrading the PR resources consensus to incorporate zero-knowledge proofs, optimizing blockchain storage, utilizing SnackStick to enhance blockchain snapshots, introducing a more concise SDL syntax, enabling support of additional features of key-its. All these aspects will be upgraded for Metaverse. While Metaverse is currently undergoing internal testing, it is expected to be publicly tested in December 2023. And I will regularly announce the progress of the project and some exciting events to the supporters and the communities of Metaverse worldwide. So that's all the presentation. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anna, for that presentation on infrastructure for Web3. Greatly appreciated. Up next, we're going to be hearing from Mr. Massa, the founder, CEO, and general partner of Orb Labs AG. And they're going to be discussing how blockchain metaverse matters for us. Thank you.
Hi, hello, I'm Mr. Massa. So I truly hope you guys enjoy ETH Riyadh at this moment. Then today I'm going to tell you about this topic here as a keynote speaker, how Web3 metaverse matters for us. Okay. Then I mainly focus on these 2 major topics, to both of them related to the metaverse. So first one is Web3 metaverse with AI will take an initiative on Web4 and why. The second one is why we should make Web3 metaverse compatible to real world. Okay. Then before we're going to dive into these 2 topics, I just briefly explain myself as a Web3 OG. Okay. Then about me, Mr. Massa is founder and CEO general partner of the Orb Labs AG. The Orb Labs is a kind of Web3 accelerator program. Then I get involved in Web3 space since 2013. Then why I gotta get involved in this space, Web3 space? Simply because I've got a huge interest in post-capitalism and singularity since my credit study. That's why. Okay. Then one of my achievements as Web3 OG is this one. I'm a co-founder and CEO of OB, which is the world's first linear scalable DPoS-based layer 1 project. Then I started this project in 2014, almost at the same time with the Ethereum. Then I sold this project to SBI Holdings, which is one of the largest investors for the Ripple in 2018. The OB was also featured in CV Inside Blockchain Startups Top 100 in 2017. Then I am also the animal and the nature lover. Okay. Then here's my kind of brief explanation about how I'm going to run a Web3 as a program. Basically I'm going to focus on Y Combinator for Web3, but approach is pretty much different because what I'm building here that Web3 investment community have, which function an influential catalyst between retail investor and Web3 startups. Okay, so that's a big difference from the Y Combinator. Okay, then these are my private token investment portfolio. Then Matrix Labs is of course one of my important portfolio that I see the biggest potential for them too. Okay. Then my portfolio performance since March 2019, including private deals, public tokens, DeFi, and staking, is over 1,000% as of April 2023. Okay. Then one more thing. Some people usually compare my OB Labs with DeFi Digital. And some people probably know about the DeFi Digital too. But actually, they're gonna run this project is over 30 full-time members. Then in parallel, actually, I'm doing everything by alone. So, for this competition, I feel like it's Satoshi Nakamoto here. Kind of interesting. Okay. Then let's move to this major topic. Web3 metaverse with AI will take initiative on Web4 and why. Okay. Then to understand this point, let me briefly explain about the history and the future of the internet. They starting from Web 1, which is a readable internet, mainly read by homepage. Then we're gonna move to Web 2. This is a kind of major internet standard. It's everyone can post lots of contents, which is led by social web, right, at this moment. Then now we are moving to the next stage, Web 3. The key concept here is own, which is led by blockchain technology. Because with the blockchain technology, everyone can pursue true ownership for all the contents or items or assets in this internet space, right? Then also we are targeting our next step, Web 4, which is led by AI. Generate economy. That's what we're thinking about. Okay. Then, Web 3 and Web 4 is currently we are building right now. But in parallel, we have to understand what is the right things we should build here. To understand this point, of course, we're going to target on what's the problem on Web 1 and Web 2, right? Because through these learning experiences, we can figure out what are the right things to do on Web 3 and Web 4. Okay. Then first things we have to achieve here is decentralizations. Then why decentralized internet is so important for us? Because current Web 2 infrastructure is controlled by these tech giants. Then why this is so problem for us that these tech giants control the internet? First problem is this one, privacy control and ad tech. Most of these tech giants make money by advertising solutions. Then here's a quotation from Brave Browser white paper that once you get access to the one website, over 50 tracking system watch you. What are you gonna do on the internet? Then these Facebook, Google make tons of money with this tracking system. Then they need our private data, our daily life activity stuff, because without these data, they cannot publish personalized advertisement for you. That's why they need those in private data, but which is totally unacceptable for us, right? That is why we have to build a completely new solutions which not rely on our tech solutions. Okay. Then another big problem here, exploitation by platform. So these social tech giants such as Meta, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter in 2023, they're gonna make 230 billion revenue. It's huge, but only $6.5 billion goes to these content creator on Web2 space. It's only 2.8% of the total revenue. It's totally unfair. That is why only few influencers can make money in Web2. Then what do we want to build? in Web3 and Web4 that everyone on the internet can make money, right? Then I think some people argue that friend tech have some impact on these kind of business model stuff. But I have to say here that it's only limited to influencers, right? Because, we're going to trade each account on Twitter like a stock. So, of course, influencer can make the biggest money, right? So from this perspective, of course, friend tech is a very important solutions or very important business model for the Web3, but it's not the ultimate solution yet. We have to think about much more advanced model here. Then one of my biggest expectations for blockchain metaverse is this one. Blockchain metaverse with AI unlocks the genetic economy in Web 4. Great reference for us is Hollywood movie Iron Man. I love this scene that Tony Stark built the Iron Man with their AI assistant with Jarvis. That's the things I'm going to imagine for Web 4 with blockchain AI. So every user can create anything with an AI Web3 metaverse, such as new character, avatar, in-game assets, upload digital content such as novel, manga, anime, music, and movies. Then they trade these NFT and they do DeFi with them. For example, you can collateralize your manga and you borrow some stable coin and they do the marketing campaign for the manga, that kind of things. That's what I expect here. Okay. Then additionally, I do think that these, latest trends about AI, especially generative AI stuff, like starting from ChatGPT, also brings huge, strong market demand for blockchain. Why? It's simple. Because, a lot of malicious users, they're gonna make those deep fake video. For example, for market manipulation, such as stock, crude oil markets, bonds, forex, something, right? The blockchain is, of course, the most effective solution here because all the time blockchain help us to build the true ownership for these contents, all right? Then all the time, blockchain technology help us to identify which video content or which picture owned by the right persons who are responsible for this content, okay? That is why here's the important fact. These generative AI and also this blockchain technology is help each other to grow up, right? That's pretty much important for us, okay? Then second major topic, why we should make Web3 metaverse compatible to real world, okay? Then here's a simple story. It's about, running from failure. So some, people remember that Second Life on the internet. This 3D social kind of metaverse world is completely failed. Completely failed. But why? I have 3 reasons for this point. First reason is this one. Timing was too early because in 2003, when Second Life launched a project, internet and CPU were too slow to run these 3D objects. This is a sample picture of the Second Life in 2023. You see this? It's so poor to play for everyone. But look at, for example, the Call of Duty on PlayStation 5 in 2021. It's so real. That is why I do think it's the right timing to think about the blockchain metaverse, 3D world in a social space. The second reason is this one, lack of reality. I see the big difference between Second Life and Web2 social. Good example is Instagram. Through the inventions and it gets popularity of the Instagram, a lot of new influencers came up this market. Good example is Real Fashion and Iska Lawrence. She was fired by a model agency because she was too big, but she made a huge success as an Instagrammer with over 5 million followers. The other example is travel. For example, like Santorini is a very beautiful island, but before the Instagram or Facebook, only very few people know about the Santorini. But because of Instagram and Facebook, a lot of users, they're gonna post these beautiful pictures of the Santorini. Santorini got a huge popularity that every woman in the world wants to visit the Santorini before they're going to die. Or these kind of connectivity or compatibility between real world and also the virtual world, it's pretty much important for the blockchain metaverse too. Very important. Then one of the key things, think about those kind of reality stuff in the blockchain metaverse, which is related to the problem, number 3, lack of scalable business model. Second Life made a huge mistake of the business model. They're gonna heavily rely on virtual real estate stuff, also like a 3D object with advanced stuff, but no one interested about this point because of lack of the reality. All right. What we expect here that business model itself bring the new experiences or new reality of our life. Then from this perspective, I do think play to earn has the biggest potential here. Now, of course, Axie Infinity is a pioneer for play to earn model. It's a great innovations, but it's not the complete yet because the tokenomics of the Axie Infinity, AXS and SAP token, it's completely failed because of the hyper-influential model of the SLP. This is not sustainable yet. So the ultimate answer for play to earn is sustainable tokenomics. Then I do think which also bring them the new reality on the blockchain metaverse. Because if anyone can make money by playing in a metaverse world, everyone got together here inside the virtual space, right? So it's a new reality for us. Then I do think Matrix World, powered by Matrix Labs, will be the one they can build and scale the sustainable creative on world in the blockchain metaverse. Okay? So that is all. Thank you very much for watching and listening to my keynote speech this time. Then if you are interested about myself, Mr. Masa, please follow my Twitter or X account @therex Mr. Masa 88. Then I'm gonna truly hope that you're gonna enjoy the ETH Riyadh. Good luck.
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation, Master. It's exciting to hear your views on the future of Web3 and Web4, what it might become. Our last presentation tonight is on the MEV protocol. It's from the MEV protocol team. And we're going to be hearing from Patrick Aljod. So thank you.
Since the inception of the merge of the Ethereum network, the independents and protocols have been reaping the benefits of staking rewards. Each protocols have emerged to harvest these rewards and distribute them to their staking tokens. The prevailing perspective is that the threat and opportunity for significant manipulation in the Ethereum network is rising, primarily due to the ambition of miners and searchers to maximize their profits through maximal extracted value, MEV. This threat is indicative of the inherent challenges within the Ethereum ecosystem, which justify the increasing efforts to control MEV. However, the Ethereum landscape is far from neutral. The threats of MEV are not the existential risks that many portray them to be, but rather subtle tactics in an ongoing battle for network supremacy. In pursuit of our revolutionary departure from the norm, a collaborative effort between two influential forces has given rise to the MEV protocol. This protocol is the result of visionary pioneers from first ever ETH staking service and a leading figure in Ethereum infrastructure. Collaboratively, this laid the groundwork to enhance network security, promote diversity in structural options for both validators and liquid staking token, all while maximizing value and advancing network decentralization. MEV is a new type of LST, one that is focused on providing maximal value for validators. This is possible by introducing a new MEV auction system that has been under development at Manifold Finance, the infrastructure partner for MEV ETH. This new auction supports multiple winners per slot, as opposed to the current paradigm of one slot, one winner in the Flashbot MEV boost system. With over 91% of the Ethereum validator market share using MEV boost, the transition to this new auction system will provide the strong foundation needed to support more advanced applications such as a forward market for priority sensitive transaction, multi-slot bidding for block builders, and restaking support for ERC20 tokens. Additionally, support for a new lending protocol and DeFi integration with platforms such as Yearn are part of the rollout of the protocol. The role of MEV ETH as an Ethereum LST is to discern what is not being highlighted in this MEV discourse, which, rather than being a mere reaction, is a proactive strategy in the broader fight for Ethereum as we know it. Hence, we see this entire protocol as not only responsible for predicting, identifying, and mitigating MEV vulnerabilities, it also enables understanding the overall dynamics resulting from the intensified competition that fuels it. Through such insights, the true essence of the Ethereum ecosystem becomes more transparent, revealing the very structure of that competition itself. Rationality can be self-defeating in the permissionless setting. The MEV protocol adopts a vertically integrated approach to the Ethereum stack, harnessing the potential of relayers, block proposers, and block builders to enhance the MEV supply chain. This strategic approach aims to provide the most efficient means of capturing value within the system. In this innovative framework, the avenues for rewards multiply, encompassing not only the validator-based fee and liquidity provider incentives, but also a groundbreaking MEV concept that allows for multiple auction winners during block buildings. Moreover, our roadmap outlines plans to capture even more rewards, promising exciting developments on the horizon. Additionally, the MEV protocol pioneers transparency and fairness in block validation by offering a variety of options for validators to decide who receives the rights to their blocks. It recognizes that such crucial decision cannot be monopolized by a single organization in private. The culmination of all these efforts give rise to the groundbreaking liquid staking token MEV ETH. Since mid-August of 2023, MEV Protocol's MEV ETH has over 28,000 ETH staked and has been receiving rewards. Users now have a straightforward process to deposit ETH and mint MEV ETH directly on the website. Cream ETH2 migration to MEV ETH are also live. Accrued reward will be available in ETH shortly after protocol deployment, and exciting MEV ETH and exiting MEV ETH for ETH will be enabled after protocol stabilization as early as next month. Meet the dedicated professional behind the MEV protocol. This diverse team brings a wealth of experience and expertise to reshape Ethereum landscape. Along with Manifold Finance and Cream Finance 20 Squares, a group specialized in compositional mechanism design will be leading the development of the various economic mechanisms that make the protocol tick, ensuring their correctness and resilience. The Ethereum landscape is far from neutral. These threats from MEV are not the existential risk that many portray them to be, but rather subtle tactics is an ongoing battle for supremacy. The age of detente is over. Thanks for watching this, and make sure to check out mev.io and mev.io on Twitter, and if you want to follow me, you can check Patsy on Twitter. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that presentation, Patrick. Interesting learning more about miner extracted value. Well, that's the end of our presentation today in our online mixer. Thank you once again, a huge thank you to all of our speakers and those who are currently watching live as well. Another reminder to follow ETH Riyadh on X, formerly Twitter, to keep up to date with the mission of growing the Ethereum ecosystem in the MENA region. I wish you all well, and once again, a huge thank you to our sponsors who have made the summit possible. It's been a very great weekend, and thank you for those who attended in person yesterday. And that is all for this evening and the presentation. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.